everybody. Welcome into the podcast here on this here sunny, rainy afternoon. We're coming to you live from the podcast room here in the J Racing Car Value True Ford Exponential 750. How you doing, Keith?
Hi, Jay. Hi, Sheryl Crow. I need to have a word with her, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So dare I ask? I mean, if anybody hasn't guessed the topic of the day of the podcast,
yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about NASCAR.
You getting in character for this one, right?
Oh man, I tell you what. Come on, man. I'm telling you what. Come on, we're gonna get her done right.
I think we all secretly love to do a little NASCAR character, even though there are many of us.
I tell you what. If you don't see my star on your car, you better call old DW.
Yeah, he's still around here. He's got some.
You know what his nickname was back in the day, right? You know what they called him?
I'm trying to think of his name from Cars, but Daryl Cartrip?
No. He was actually he had I think they may have called him the Mouth at one time, but they called him Crybaby. He landed the handle of Crybaby. I think he was not happy at the end of every race when he got beat or something, but he's a true legend. Anyway, we'll get into that. So how are you doing today though?
I'm great. I'm anxiously looking forward to this podcast and keeping an eye on the news feed and
yeah. Well, I've been driving around.
I see you got your crew shirt, your pit shirt on there.
I've been driving around in the Yazoo Firestone pickup truck. Yeah.
Now, and the scary part is I have some of those crew shirts that I actually wear around on a daily basis. Like
I have a few. I have a few, and I have the lanyards from the races. I used to buy them from some of the races I would go to, and my prized possession lanyard is my Indy 500 lanyards. That's I've been very, very, very privileged and to have had the opportunity to see the greatest spectacle on earth like 3 times.
Yeah,
it was a wonderful experience. Vroom vroom. Vroom.
All right,
vroom,
so
vroom.
I guess before you get me too excited on this whole NASCAR topic, maybe we should talk a little bit about some current events, news type stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So let me get ready. Let's get serious here.
All right, I'll buy you about 10 seconds.
Live from Park Scouter Guru. All right. So we're back in normal form.
I can see that. It's like a completely different person there.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
All right. So
let's talk. What's going on? What's news of the day? What's new in the world? What do you have for me?
Man, I got a lot of stuff, but let's so we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence and automation and self-driving cars and AI and all right, okay. So Toyota's built this robot. It's a basketball. Have you heard about this? They have a basketball robot. Okay. So it's let's see, who is this from? I'm not sure where this who wrote this, but Toyota built a robot that can shoot hoops and hardly ever misses a free throw or a three-pointer. Cannot slam dunk. Cannot dunk. But and can't dribble. Okay. But hardly ever misses a free throw or a three-pointer. 207 centimeters, so it's 6'10". That's roughly basketball player size.
It's 6'10".
Yeah.
The robot is?
Yeah.
And it can't dunk?
I guess not. I
mean, can't they like add like these things that lifts it up and then it just, I mean, okay.
It's a prototype.
Toyota did this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Debuted it in Tokyo. They call this thing Q3, CUE3. Computes as a three-dimensional image where the basket is using sensors on its torso and adjusts motors inside its arms and knees to give the shot the right angle and propulsion for a swish.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, who knows where that's going to come into play in the automotive industry?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be some aspect of that development that gets used later on.
What I would like to have is one of those. Okay, I'll tell you right now. Okay, so I know you. You're quite the RVer. You camp. You're prepared. You're ready for it. You know what you're doing when it comes to camping. My idea of camping is letting someone else do it, and I come and visit you.
Sure. Yeah.
And kind of hang out with you. So what I want is a robot. If I'm going to go camp, it sets the tent up for me. So that's what I want. So maybe that's where we're going to go with this technology.
Well, I think we're pretty close to that.
No way.
We've got a lot of RVs now that'll basically, you pull them into the pad and you push a couple buttons. Like I can do stuff on my smartphone where all the slides pop out and it self-levels. And
yeah,
I would say we're not too far from that, I don't think.
Yeah.
So let's see. I've got another one here. I'm looking at. So we've got I'm going to try to do this live on the air because I've got to show you these pictures. Okay.
Okay.
So see if you can find in our program that we use to do this. There's a chat tab. And just let me know if you can find that because I got to send you these. If you can here, let's test this on the air.
Are we here? Let's see here. Let me get here.
And if you can't find it, it's no big deal. But here, I'll send it.
I have
just gonna say test.
Send
there you go. Because if you get it, all right. So here is. I gotta send you this link, man. I mean, this is. So let me say this, okay? Sort of my. How distraught I am sometimes with the Postal Service, with the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a clothing company that has here. Let me send you I just sent you the link, but let me just read you the headline. U.S. Postal Service delivers a sexy fashion line.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, the link actually says Postal Service delivers an oddly sexualized fashion line. Did you notice that? That's gotcha.
So,
yeah.
Are you seeing these pictures?
I'm getting there. Let's see here.
All right. So there's a now you don't have any teenage daughters, nor have you ever had teenage daughters.
No,
I don't either, but I know. So there's a clothing store in the malls. It's called Forever 21. Okay,
right.
I know this because my sister has had teenage daughters. Okay, Forever 21 is going postal with a wacky streetwear collection inspired by an unlikely institution, the USPS.
Is that a tube?
Are you in need of a priority mail tube top? Are you seeing this?
Yes, I'm seeing this, man.
The 12-piece line also delivers stamped bike shorts, express mail hoodies, emblazoned with faux receipts and QR codes, ribbon belts that resemble packing tape, and windbreakers plastered with shipping labels.
What are they thinking, man? I mean,
what in the world, man?
Now, for Halloween, you might, want to go in that direction or something.
All right.
But
so as I was sort of getting ready for this podcast, this theme kept coming to mind, and then I read this news article, and it fit. But what we're going to talk about in a few minutes, I think it still fits. You're familiar with the 80s hit TV show Miami Vice, right?
Oh, man, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Don't tell everybody, but when I got married the first time, I was wearing the Don Johnson attire.
Perfect. Okay. So, and there's so many, like, just from a production standpoint, if you go back and you look at all, like, pushing the envelope, like something that we're constantly talking about in the automotive industry, they were shooting with more cameras than was typically done for a TV show. They were licensing commercial music in TV shows and letting it play out through scenes, and that really wasn't, of course, that famous In the Air Tonight scene, and that was something like almost 10 minutes long or 7 minutes long.
Yeah, the music was great. I mean, I think it launched a really huge career of Jan Hammer or whatever his name was, right?
I think it's Jan,
And Smuggler's Blues was a big hit.
Yeah, Glenn Fry showed up on the and then of course the Cars, right? Okay, so
and the characters were great.
And then of course you've got the Don Johnson wearing the Hugo Boss suits with cotton t-shirt underneath and all that. Okay, so here's the thing, man. If you don't live in coastal Florida in the 1980s and you show up to work looking like that, you're going to be the subject of conversation and not in a good way. Okay.
Yeah.
But yet we all sort of did it, right? I mean, you did it. We were all inspired by it.
I was guilty, man. I was guilty of it.
It was cool. It was trendy. And here we have Forever 21 kind of trying to pull a Miami Vice. As we're looking at this stuff, man, it's like, who would wear this in public?
Right. Somebody will, though. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and put a crystal ball, just guess at where this is going to show up first.
It's now keep in mind this is teenage girls is the primary demographic of this store chain.
I understand, but I get that. But I'm talking about where it will be seen being worn.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm all ears, man.
Okay, I'm thinking that you'll probably see this stuff being worn it's probably going to show up in a few Walmarts, shopping attire.
Okay, you're going, okay. Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm thinking. Or some odd swingers party. I don't know. I mean, just, what can you do that? I'm coming as a postal worker. You're coming as a, I mean, who knows?
I kind of can't wait to see this now that it's like that new word that you learn, and then, the next day it's like all over, you hear it on the radio or the news or what. This is going to start showing up this summer. I'm mark my words, people.
Well, you know what? They put the Don Johnson attire out, and who would have thought that anybody would have worn that? But
yep,
they are, and they did. I did. I love the pastel colors.
Stuff too. I've tried to burn as many of those existing photographs with me, as I could, but I think there's still a few out there.
Wacky streetwear collection. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, priority male tube top.
I mean, first of all, who wears a tube top anymore? Second,
right. There's a few photos floating around of some family members of mine that are wearing them.
Well, from the 70s and 80s. But I guess the Postal Service is in desperate need of money, and they're going to license anything these days.
One of the pictures that I don't see here, but I love the descriptions that they're given. I mean, this is pretty creative. So the 12-piece line also delivers stamped bike shorts, which they're there. That I can get, if you're on a, say, team, priority mail or whatever, Team US mail. There you go. But hoodies are emblazoned with faux receipts and QR codes. gross grain ribbon belts that resemble packing tape and windbreakers plastered with shipping labels. What the world? I got to have one, man.
I mean,
I want the hoodie.
So, yeah. I mean,
is there a men's hoodie? Are they coming out with a men's line? Tell you what, folks, if they do, send them our way. You go right to partscounterguru.com.
Wear your Postal Service hat?
I will. I'll go postal on you that day.
All right. So, are you familiar with the term barn find?
Barn find. No,
right.
that's a new one on me too, man. Thanks, you're stumping me, man.
So this is made popular through a lot of car, like racing type video games. And I know this, well, I've played a few, and then now my son's into them. And some of these games, they have, like the Forza series, they'll have these barn finds, right? And it's just like it sounds, like kind of like grandma had a barn, and she has an old, vintage automobile that worth a lot of money if it's restored, and people are finding these gems in barns, right?
That term, yeah, gotcha, yes.
Okay. So, 18-year-old Acura sports car was sealed behind barn wall for 10 years. Okay. So this guy, this is coming from Fox News. The 2001 Acura Integra Type R is becoming one of the most sought-after enthusiast cars on the collector market. They didn't make a whole lot of them. It's a hatchback. It's 198.5 horsepower, which was kind of a big deal for back then, for as light as it was. And that was kind of Acura's... They were pushing the envelope back in the day, right?
Right.
One owner in Canada valued his so much that he sealed it behind a wall in an old barn for a decade, because he didn't want any person to see or play with it. Sealed it behind a wall. I can't make this stuff up, man.
That is why. I mean, that's just crazy.
I'm sitting here looking at pictures of it. It looks like it's in really, really good shape for its age. He's gotten offers as high as $7,500 for just the seats alone. And he's not going to part it out. But he will sell the whole thing. I mean, it's a good looking.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's insane. Speaking of barn finds like that, I read a recent article, and I don't have it in front of me, and I won't go looking for it, but I will tell you what it was about. It was somewhere in Russia. There was a rental car agency that had ordered like 30 BMW 5s, 5 Series, for their rental car fleet. Well, apparently they never got delivered, or the rental car fleet never put them in their fleet to use, and they were found in this building untouched. All these years.
That doesn't sound suspicious at all.
No, right?
Right, especially considering and I don't know if we have any Russian listeners or not, but considering the country, I mean, right. Come on, you guys, you got to admit, there's been more than a few questionable.
So do this for me, and you'll be out in 30 years, and there's going to be 30 BMW 5 Series waiting on you.
Well, in Russia, a car rents you.
Oh,
wow.
Man. Speaking of Russia, we just did, you just put a recent video out on, dash cams.
Yeah.
And
what does that have to do with Russia?
Well, they use dash cams like crazy.
Oh.
If you'll notice, a lot of the dash cam videos out there are
okay. Yeah. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, that's for documentation of after the crime occurs.
Correct. Yes. They're just protecting themselves.
Right.
But you talk about that in your video about, just in case, something happens, you've got a little piece of evidence there. So anyway.
All right, moving on. So let's talk about space for a minute. We're big kind of sci-fi nuts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I am, man. Yeah.
All right. So do you know about what India did this week?
Blew up a satellite, from my understanding, and created a bunch of debris out there. Yes.
Oh, NASA's pissed.
Yes, they are.
I watched the press conference from the and I don't have the full article here, but I can try to pull it up. But it was one of the bigwigs at NASA, and he doesn't have his title is kind of interesting. It's not like director or CEO or president. It's like anyway. So for those of you that don't know, India had a satellite in orbit, and they developed some sort of rocket technology and shot a rocket or a missile into space, targeted their satellite, and blew it up. Okay? So now NASA's tracking. So this creates a problem because there's all these pieces now floating around in orbit of space trash.
Right.
And they're the ones big enough for them, like they're actually, NASA's sitting there identifying pieces, labeling them and tracking them now, and they've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 so far. And some of them are above the orbit of the International Space Station.
Right.
And so why that concerns them is because as gravity does its thing and pulls those pieces of space junk down lower into orbit, they could collide with the ISS, poke holes in it, cause it to crash, kill everybody inside.
Right. So let me ask you, I mean, who is the genius over there that decided that this was okay without consulting the rest of the world?
You know, this is a great example of ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do you think maybe a conversation with the people that have current humans in space, in orbit, before you did this might have been just out of a courtesy?
Right. Exactly. And you know what I bring to question is, why did they need to blow it up anyway? What type of a satellite was it?
Well, there's that whole angle too. But just think about it like this. For those of you that live in a neighborhood, okay? If you're going to do something, let's say there's a common area in the neighborhood, and we'll call that space. Common space.
An HOA maybe even.
Sure, but like you've got a park area or common...
Sure, common area, a little gazebo.
And you're going to go out there, and you're going to take your garbage can, and you're going to put a bunch of bottle rockets in it, and you're going to just throw some gasoline or some lighter fuel in it, and just go sick. Now, there's an HOA where I live, and there's nothing in the rules per se that says you can't do something like that. Now, there are city ordinances and whatnot.
Right.
But how about we just like clear that with the neighbors as a decent act of common courtesy and go, hey man, we're going to be getting a little bit nuts tomorrow night. We'll be done by noon, or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
you may hear a few loud explosions, and it's just us. So yeah,
right. Don't call the police. Just a little common, and that way anybody that might potentially be impacted has the opportunity to go, well, hold on a second. We've got a 7-year-old soccer match scheduled in that field at the same time, or, whatever. I mean...
Well, I wonder what the intel community was doing throughout this whole process. I mean, there's got to be some guys at NORAD
tracking launches.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those guys are over there going, oh, this is it, man. They got the keys and the buttons and, oh, yeah.
I'm just...
I mean, is there another level of stupidity that you can get to outside of that? I mean, that's like it, isn't it?
I think I can match that. Not me personally, but I think I've got another one.
You've got another story?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I can't wait for this.
All right, so...
This gets better. This is great, man.
Well, Jay, every day is a winding road. Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
So... At the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned Sheryl Crow. Okay,
whom I'm a big fan of, by the way.
I'm kind of starting to think, or I was for a while, she might be stalking me.
She lives out in your neck of the woods, doesn't she?
Not anymore. Oh,
really?
I don't think I'm gonna have to get a restraining order. Okay. So let me just give you the quick. So roughly about 50 years ago, maybe a little less, Sheryl Crow's born in a small rural town in Missouri, I think. Or yes. At least she was raised there. And then a few years after that, so was I. Now, not the same exact town, but, small rural town in Missouri. Coincidence?
Mm-hmm. You never know.
Fast forward to college age. She goes to a university that shall remain unnamed. It's a pretty big one in the state of Missouri. Has some music professors. Fast forward a few years, and I happen to go to that same school. Have some of the same professors. Coincidence? Now, technically, she was there before me, so I'm not sure how you would play the stalker angle with that.
Well, she was setting her, she was getting
possibly
in place, man. She did her homework.
So I moved to Nashville in the mid '90s, and she moved to Nashville shortly after.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
I don't think so, Keith. I'm thinking there's something fishy here.
While living in Nashville, in one of the neighborhoods I used to live in, I had some neighbors that were good friends, and his family ran the choreography for the Thanksgiving halftime show for the Dallas Cowboys, and they did that every year. So that big
Cowboys,
production, they were part of that, and we would always get invites to go to those shows, and we'd go there a couple days early and watch rehearsals. And at one of the Thanksgiving, I don't know what year it was, but I would guess like late 90s, early 2000s, Sheryl Crow did the halftime show for the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving game.
Coincidence?
A coincidence? And I'm standing there on the sidelines. So I was there several days in advance, and so was she, and they were doing the rehearsals, and I got to kind of watch all that. And I'm standing there on the sidelines, and I look over, and it's Lance Armstrong, right?
Oh.
And I, at the time, didn't have it, what's up, cheater, but didn't go there. But I gotta say, like, if you had the bad judgment to date a guy like that, I don't know how. But
anyway,
same place, right? I digress. Same place, same coincidence, right? So
yeah.
Then a few years later, I'm a big runner, and I do some marathons and triathlons and stuff, and I'm the Nashville, I think they were calling it the Country Music Marathon at the time. I've actually got the shirt on for I think this is the one, 2013.
St. Jude Country Music Marathon, 2013. Yeah, that's original.
Oh yeah. You got to run to get one of these. So
why can they call it like Music City?
I think they used to, or they do now, or I don't know. I just show up and run, man. Okay, so
gotcha.
So we're in the corrals before we're getting in our spots, and I look over and I'm like, is that Sheryl Crow? And I try not to be obvious about it, but yep, sure enough, it's her, and Now, she was back with the slow people, and I had to move up, and that was kind of, I never saw her again after that. I think shortly after that, she left town, moved out.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of weird to me that she keeps sort of showing up in my life unannounced and without invitation. I'm not trying to say that,
That is a little creepy, man. I mean,
it's just kind of bugging me. Well, so Sheryl made the news this week, and I actually have a real problem with what she did, because this is something that you've heard me talk about. I have personally experienced this in my professional career many times, and it really bothers me from the perspective. Well, so let's get into this. So news headline a couple days earlier this week, and this is going to be about. We can't go a week without talking about Tesla. Sheryl Crow's screen goes dark. Elon Musk saves the day. Sheryl Crow's Tesla screen goes dark. Elon Musk saves the day. All right. So she apparently gets on Twitter, and let me see if I can find the tweet here. Okay, here it is. Help. This is from Sheryl Crow. Okay. Who knows what to do when you're at Tesla? Screen goes black and the reset doesn't work. return it and get your money back. Hashtag Tesla. Hashtag stuck in a parking lot.
Okay.
So now I think she brought in Elon Musk to the conversation, but she definitely at Tesla. So she brought Tesla into the conversation, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple problems with this. Number one, guilty until proven innocent must be the car's fault, right?
Yeah, of course.
No possible way this could have anything to do with your ignorant person doing something stupid that caused this, right? So it turns out, so this is Elon tweets back, right? He says, night mode with 0% brightness is actually too dark during the day. This is ultimately our fault. We will update our software so that 0% brightness is always usable relative to ambient conditions. So this is what it turns out happened. Someone had gotten into her settings, and I think she says it's one of her kids. And just like on your smartphone, you know how you can adjust the brightness?
Yeah.
Just dial the brightness
yeah.
all the way down until it got to a point that you couldn't see the screen.
Right. Yeah.
And
I have that in my regular Hyundai. You can in certain controls it does that. Yes.
So then she tweets back, problem solved, ! Loved all of your creative responses. Best one was suggesting my kids take a look, which would have been helpful since my kid was the one who changed the settings / caused it to go black in the first place.
What? Now she gives the apology.
We're gonna go to the Twitterverse. We're gonna call out Tesla, and we're gonna blame. So this is why when we talk about having to no matter how much software development that you do,
right,
and how much testing that you do, there's always going to be somebody that's going to figure out a way to do something in a way that you never intended. You know, they're going to hold a button down for 3.5 minutes while trying to hold another button, or sitting here,
or burn your hand on a cup of hot coffee because you didn't know it was hot.
And you can try as you will to idiot-proof these things, but it's really to the point where it's very difficult to do so, especially if you have sort of a mass consumer audience like Tesla is growing. Right. So Musk said, "Hey, my fault. We'll idiot-proof this so that you can't actually make it all the way dark."
Right.
This is the kind of stuff that eventually ruins it forever for the people that aren't absent of some common sense.
Right. Well, first off, we're all prone to, like, in the heat of the moment, throw a little bit of a fit when something doesn't go our way.
Okay.
We know that. Let's give everybody a pass there. However, when you get on social media and you start banging the drum, it's going to come back and bite you because that stuff doesn't go away. Don't take the social media and do this stuff.
You're exactly right. And I thought this through, and I thought, do I want to go here with this? But here's why I do. Because I can't, first of all, I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten insinuating text messages or emails basically saying, you broke my blank, or your crappy product broke my blank, or, oh my God, I can't do business because of your... And it turns out that it's something that person did or something someone in their office did that caused the problem.
Right.
And so it's one thing to go to social media and ask for help, which is fine, right? That's a great use of social media. But when you make it, and it's hard to tell with text if it was a joke, but when you say, what do I do? Return it and get my money back? Okay. Now you're just using your status as a celebrity and threatening bad PR and returning a car because you're hashtag stuck in a parking lot. When it was... See, that's the part that does it for me. It's when you start talking about taking the car back because, clearly it must be the car, right?
Yeah. There's a lesson to be learned here, not specifically for this single type of an incident, but across the board in social media. People hide behind these platforms and think that there's no repercussions from it. And just keep on going, just keep doing it.
All I want to do, oh wait. All I want is to not have to have the warning "coffee is hot" label on the coffee cup, and that's not even that bad, really. I mean, I can ignore that, but when I got to get into a car that now has to have certain safety precautions because somebody's not. Well, it's not that they're not smart enough to figure it out; it's that they're going to blame someone else when they mess up.
Right.
That's the problem.
We are letting people off the hook. This is the society that we're in right now. We're letting people off the hook with some of these types of comments by developing things or changing things to cater to those idiots, if you will.
I mean,
and look, as heartbreaking as it is when people leave their children in their car, and which is a horrible thing to have happen if they die in the heat and everything. But there are, alerts, apps, all sorts of things in our society today that reminds us of common sense things. We have a responsibility to be a human being and use our brains. That's our responsibility. But gosh, man, blaming Tesla. Wow.
If it makes you happy.
That's awesome. I love it.
All right. So,
okay, first round's on me, pal.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Yeah,
so
you were correct. Yes.
We had a little off the air kind of text conversation going on about how funny the news would be this time around. So and ironically, and I was kind of digging for some NASCAR news, and there's been quite a bit of that lately.
Yes.
And you called me and told me something that I didn't. I don't follow NASCAR a lot, but you want to elaborate a little bit on the Ford, what Ford's doing?
Yeah, and before we get into talking about NASCAR, just I'm not a NASCAR expert by no means. I have followed NASCAR since I was a little kid, just because of the industry that I was in. Or am in. When you grow up behind an auto parts counter, I started selling auto parts. Like I think I've told our audience this before. I was around the age of around 12 years old, and so I got to meet, the drivers of some of the companies that I worked for, just because we were my dad was an owner of a major parts store chain. I had the opportunity of going to some of the VIP tents and meeting them. So anyway. But yeah, the news of the week was, what's going on in, the models of the vehicles that are getting into NASCAR. We've had several years where you had like the Lumina, and then it changed to like the Impala SS to make it a little bit more sporty. Ford was running the Fusion. So now here we are in 2019, and they've introduced, the Ford Mustang into the lineup, and it's a really, really awesome looking stock car. And from the scheme of things, as when they come up with a plan to bring out a certain model, they try their best to make it look somewhat like the street version, but not always does it come out looking that way. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, because of aerodynamics and certain things that they have to put on these things to keep them on the track, and so you lose a little bit of that identity. Ford, man, I've seen the new Ford Mustang on the track, and it looks awesome, right down to the taillights. That's a facade. It's not they don't really actually blink directional like they do, on the highway.
Well, they can't. But there's track regulations that prohibit
there's
that.
There's no brake lights. There's no but it is it looks cool. So they've mimicked that to look identical to the street version. And then the front end of it, man, they've got their nice little the Mustang logo right on the front, the little silhouette thing.
Yeah,
it looks great, man. So what you're seeing is a trend in that direction, because they brought the Camaro is now in there, where it took over. And then now I just found out, I read an article that Toyota right now is running the Camry in the Monster Energy drink cup series, but Toyota has gone to the Supra, the new Supra in the Xfinity series. So, and my understanding is they're going to try to bring that over to the actual Cup series, the Monster Energy.
Then
that's a whole other.
That's a big financial investment for.
It is, but and that's a whole other piece of news too, because I just found out that this year, I think that Monster Energy signed a 1-year agreement to extend out for this season, but after this season, they're no longer the sponsor of the Cup, and that's kind of where we're going to go with this conversation today. Is what's going on with NASCAR? So
right. So we kind of talked. So let me kind of set this up a little bit. So at some point, a little bit back, you said let's talk about NASCAR.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that could be interesting. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, oh, this is the more sort of research that I did, I thought, oh, this is really a good fit. And then you were sort of like, man, I don't know. I think it's because there's this stigma with NASCAR that we know maybe isn't most of our. There might be a large portion of our audience that aren't NASCAR fans. The more I am learning about NASCAR, the more I think it's kind of a big picture lesson for the auto industry. So here's and I guess I need to sort of qualify. My exposure is I am not a NASCAR fan. Now, I'm not double negative a NASCAR fan. It's just not really my thing. I know some about it. I watched Talladega Nights. I've seen all 3 Cars movies. I saw Days of Thunder.
And these are some of the things we're going to get into.
Those are all documentaries, right?
Well, pretty much. I mean, the impact that NASCAR has had on pop culture is just amazing. I mean, that's some of the stuff that we want to talk about is how it's impacted our lives.
I am a race fan.
Yeah,
and I do, well. And I own some things, and I've done track days, and I've been in a NASCAR, and that it's actually not at all, if you've never been in one, like what you would think. Yeah. And I've been on track, all that. So, and I've been on some of the tracks that they use, but I'm not, and I actually am going to, in Charlotte, over Memorial Day weekend, I think it's the Coke 500. I hope it's Coca-Cola not the Pepsi 500. If it's
Charlotte, Coca-Cola 500,
okay.
Yeah, it's Coca-Cola. Yeah.
And that'll be my first NASCAR race, and it was sort of a corporate invitation.
That's a really good track. You'll enjoy that.
So, but I don't. So I have a lot of questions because I have knowledge from
one second. We got to. I apologize for breaking in on you there.
That's all right.
Because I know you had a good train of thought, but keep that. In keeping with the NASCAR theme, sponsorship is huge with those guys.
Oh,
I mean, these cars do not run without the sponsorships that they have. So that will be held at Lowe's Motor Speedway. So let's give credit.
Yeah.
Let's start giving a little bit of credit to these sponsors. Yeah.
So that is a huge. So I know sort of the why and the how and a little bit of the what goes on, and the big news events, of course, I'm aware of. But I have a lot of questions, right? So, and some of those we may kind of kick around here. I think that it's no secret that NASCAR's been financially declining a little bit over the past few years.
Yeah,
most people know that.
I've got some stats for you on that.
Yeah,
so.
The more I read, the more I was like, "Holy cow! It's worse than I thought it was."
There are some issues, and let me give you some specifics on that. The Daytona 500 in 2018, okay, it earned a 5.3 rating and 9.3 million viewers on the Fox network. That is a 20% reduction in ratings from the year before, and it was down 20% and 18% from 2016. The 5.3 rating in 2018, that 500, was the lowest for the 500 since that infamous start-to-finish coverage in 1979, which was the first flag to flag race that was televised, which is very famous because you had the big fight at the end, between who was it? Yeah, Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough. That's who it was.
Okay.
Where they were in, the last lap, and they were bumping and turning and spun each other out, and next thing you know, you got a winner, and then all of a sudden they keep the cameras rolling, and these guys are out on the they're in the infield, man. They're just duking it out, and that's what really, really propelled NASCAR, was that particular incident, that race. But what's amazing to me is that the ratings are at its lowest since that particular race. That's a long time ago.
All right, so I got two. So I have a theory on that. We'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, I have two additional pieces of information that I want to add to that. Okay, so apparently there are 3 separate companies that each have a stake in the overall NASCAR product. Okay, and all 3 of those public companies have released their earnings reports for this first quarter.
Yeah,
and all 3 are showing their admissions revenue numbers show a significant drop in ticket sales. International Speedway Corporation, Speedway Motorsports Inc., and Dover Motorsports Inc. show a 14.7% drop in admissions revenue for 14 NASCAR Cup Series weekends after the Daytona 500. So this is starting as of kind of last year, moving into the first quarter of this year, right?
Well, yeah. Well, look what happened to the super speedway outside of Nashville and Gladeville.
Gone.
Beautiful complex.
Yep.
State of the art. And it was built. They had hotels in place. It was built.
It's there, but it's a weed bed now.
It's growing weeds in the concrete now. But Dover was one of the 3 that you just mentioned that actually took that over and owned it. And they had some IRL races there. They had the Craftsman Truck Series race there, for a while. I think they may have run a few Busch Series races there back in the day when it was first built. And it's a beautiful state-of-the-art track. They had a drag strip out there. No longer. They let it go. I think it's actually privately owned now, and there was some talk about it becoming maybe an outdoor show venue or something like that, where they can have big music festivals or whatever. So anyway, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the very beginning, this whole NASCAR thing has been a tremendous tool for corporate sales. Whether that's the automobile manufacturers Ford putting their Mustang logo on the front of that car, or Lowe's sponsoring a car that's blue and Lowe's blue that's plastered with Lowe's all over the car, to Monster Energy paying for the title to the race, and it says the Monster Energy on your ticket, the Monster Energy 500 or whatever it is.
Yes.
And each there are so many different components of these races, and each one potentially is in front of millions of fans that will then be consumers of those products, right?
That's correct.
It's a huge industry in terms of...
It is a huge, for marketing product, it is huge. You're absolutely correct. I mean, it is unbelievable the amount of money spent in sponsorship.
Commercials and all that, right?
Commercials and all this stuff is unbelievable.
So what I find interesting, so NASCAR, correct me if I'm wrong here, but essentially was inspired by old moonshine runners who put hooch in the trunk
through Prohibition, through the Prohibition years. Yes, that's exactly
and drove their cars to wherever they were going to distribute this stuff.
Yeah, through the Appalachians, and I mean, it's all started in North Carolina,
in the
Virginia,
east, in the South, right? Eastern United States in the South, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Then we have NASCAR, which is sort of inspired by that.
Right.
And there's been
for those of you who don't know what NASCAR stands for, it is the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing.
Okay. And
that's
the stock car part of it was, so these cars were originally, when NASCAR first started, they were racing stock automobiles. These were cars that you could, in theory, go and buy one off the showroom floor floor.
Correct.
And run it around a racetrack. You could own the same car that Richard Petty drove. What is it, Plymouth Superbird or whatever, right?
Yeah, the Super B. Yeah,
Super B.
Superbird, Super B, Superbird, whatever it was. Yeah.
And we have moved so far away from that aspect of it now that these cars there's the only thing in these cars now that is similar to the car you own is probably that Mustang pony on the front.
That's it. That's absolutely it. And the recognizable manufacturer of Ford, Chevrolet, Toyota, Dodge, which by the way, Dodge is not running right now.
Okay. Yeah, no surprise there.
There was a little fallout in 2012 and 2013, I think, with them going with Fiat, and there was a little bit of bad issue going on there, but they haven't really returned to it yet. So, to the Cup.
Now there was so we're talking about 80s TV shows, right? So and we're gonna get back to Miami Vice in a minute, but Dukes of Hazzard, of course, remember that show, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The General Lee, man.
For those of you that don't remember that show, Uncle Jesse made moonshine.
Pooch. Yep. Pooch, man. He was a moonshiner.
And one of the underlying sort of story themes, every episode had its own sort of plot, but they were delivering Uncle Jesse's moonshine in that car, right?
Right.
And there's actually a movie, if you can, it's hard to find. I've got a copy. It's interesting. The guy that created the Dukes of Hazzard did a movie before the TV show in the 70s, and it's called Moonrunners.
Okay.
I think it's called Moonrunners.
Okay.
And it is basically an unrefined version of the Dukes of Hazzard. So he has the story, he has the idea of the characters, that some of them have the same name, some of them have different names. The car is actually called the Traveler, which was General Lee's horse. That was Robert E. Lee's horse's name. So he named the car the Traveler. There's a sheriff and a local tavern owner, and there's two cousins, and it's the same. And Waylon Jennings narrates it.
Oh, man.
And it's
the true
kind
outlaw.
of like Dukes of Hazzard, the movie. Okay?
Yeah,
not the one that came out and with, what's his name? Stifler from American Pie.
Yeah.
But Sean, whatever. But
yeah, I know you're
okay.
right, yes.
So, look, that was sort of a way of life in that part of the world, like running moonshine and sort of that old. Okay, so we have this sort of art imitating life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we get NASCAR, art imitating life,
right?
And we have gotten to the point now where it's kind of the other way around. Like there's not really any imitation going on. This is all huge race team. Those engines are developed specifically for those cars in those races.
And they're built to the specifications that are required. That are mandated by NASCAR. The technology that's involved, the amount of technology that is on board in one of these cars today is, I mean, you could shoot a rocket. I mean, there's more in that car than in 3 of the rockets going up, back in the 60s, man.
Yeah.
On those missions. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And what's neat about all of this technology that's gone into it, it's actually made the fan experience so much better. If you're a gearhead, if you're into that, where you want to see, how much push he's got, or, how much fuel he's got left or her, because we can't forget about Danica. Danica was, I mean, God bless her, man. She was out there with the best of them, man, and I think she kicks some butt myself. But anyway, I mean, the technology there for the fans, I mean, it's so awesome. It's an incredible experience.
Okay, so you've got this. There's a lot of engineering. You've got these guys literally trying to figure out how to put just enough fuel in them so they make it across the finish line, but not so much that they're adding extra weight carrying around.
It's exactly right. It's a math problem the entire time they're out on the track.
It is, in so many ways, a race of nuances, from drafting to just just split like less than a second of reaction time and wheel adjustments and on the flip side of that coin, you have the stereotypical NASCAR fan, which is exactly the opposite of the word nuance, right? Which is,
right.
I mean, Talladega Nights kind of did a good job of the parody, right?
Ricky Bobby. Yeah.
It is hammer down, pedal to the metal, shake and bake, whatever. And these guys are, I mean, look, I've seen TV spots. I mean, they're a crew of guys with shirtless guys with a different letter on each one of them down the line, spelling out the name of their, their driver, their race team or whatever.
Right.
And faces painted. I mean, it looks like a scene from Braveheart sometimes, right? I mean,
right.
they're about to go to war.
Oh man.
And I mean, these guys are not subtle in any way, right? And and these cars, it's loud at these races, and there's lots of tailgating that goes on, and so you have
lots of U.S. Postal Service tube tops.
There you go. There you go, right? So you sort of have, this is what it comes down to. It's the equivalent of someone trying to dress like Don Johnson in the 80s in the middle in Dubuque, Iowa. Okay?
Right.
I mean, it's just, you stick out like...
You do.
Okay?
You do.
So, now... There's a lot of and so NASCAR's made a lot of changes to try to find their way to figure this out, right? So you hear guys like me who are race fans who go, well, look, all you guys just do is turn left for 500 laps, and it's boring, right? And I don't want to watch that. And so they've done some. Now they implemented some corners and road races, and they've had to figure all that out, right?
Right.
And they so there's that, and then you get, now they're to the point where the automobiles are completely engineered for those races, and they're not using stock anything.
They have a couple of cars for a specific race. They have a couple of cars for another type of track, and
depending on the weather and the track surface, they've got certain tires, and they never run in the rain. So they don't race in the rain, do they?
No.
Okay, so like they don't have to worry about water tires that are
it's right. It's not like Formula One where they're doing they're running in the rain and through the streets, and
So NASCAR's, who has been the king for a long time, has tried to go, well, wait, now we've got to accommodate like people like me to try to bring them in, and so they're making some changes to try to do that.
Oh, you mean like putting a movie out like Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise?
Well, that's one way, yeah. I mean, yeah. So, and it's still racing. It's just a different kind of. So, but I have this theory, and it kind of ties into like what we've talked about on the past few previous podcasts, which is I don't necessarily think the NASCAR fans are dying, like that they're leaving, or they're not interested anymore. I see this more as like we started with Netflix, right?
Yep.
And then we got Hulu. Yep. And then we got Prime Video. And now Apple announced last week that they're going to have their own TV studio. And then there's Disney doing they're about to come out with one. They've already announced it. So everybody's sort of getting in this game, right? So do you remember in the heyday of NASCAR, late 70s, early 80s, how many TV stations did you have?
You only had like 3, right? I mean, I had 3 networks. That was it.
And they're talking about ratings, and they're talking about a 7 point whatever or a 10 point whatever. Okay. Yeah. And nowadays, like if you get a certain share, it's a really big deal. Like big shows like The Walking Dead or The Sopranos back in the day or whatever, where they were just pulling in like massive, and it was smaller compared to anything in the 80s because there were only 3 or 4 channels, right?
That's right.
I think NASCAR sort of found themselves in that situation. So, like, okay, so I am a motorcycle fan, and there used to be a circuit called, well, there's MotoGP, which is the world, that is the big one, okay? Then there's World Superbike. Then there used to be one called AMA. and that was the American version of sort of the race circuit. So it was a national, not world, but on a national
level. Not an international, but right.
NASCAR bought them and promptly ran them straight into the ground. Fans left. I actually have a bike that was an AMA race bike that it's my track bike now, that was raced by a rider on the track before NASCAR, and they changed the name, and it was just they changed all the schedules, and they thought they knew what they were doing. So they thought, well, yeah, we're seeing this diversification. Okay, we know there are motorcycle fans. Well, if they're not watching our stock car races, let's just buy that race circuit, and then we'll retain them as our fans. Problem is they didn't know what they were doing with that kind of a race. And then, of course, you got the truck series. You got Formula One racing, which is owned by a completely different crowd. IRL, IRL, which is a completely different crowd. My version of Superbike racing is now back under the Moto America moniker, which is they're reviving it. It's NASCAR sold it off. It was on life support, but I think that the problem NASCAR is facing is they've got a lot of different competitors with different race styles, and everybody can sort of dig into their own preferred flavor of racing. And you're not going to have there aren't just 3 channels anymore, right? There's probably on any Saturday in the summer, you can turn the TV on and find 2 or 3 different kinds of races going on any given weekend, I would think.
Absolutely. In this day and time, there's no shortage of some form of racing going on year round. It's pretty amazing, the stuff that's out there. I mean, we're in that time in society where everything is at your fingertips anytime you want it. And I can't understand how hard it must be for someone in NASCAR to try to crack that nut, to try to figure out how to bring people back to them, with all of the competition that they have out there. Well, it's a lot of distractions for fans, man.
Why not? And I'm speaking from sort of a position of ignorance here. Why not go back to a little bit of stock car racing?
Yeah. That would be fun. Yeah, that would be fun.
I mean,
I think that that could tie into like what NASCAR did to kind of really draw back the front runners and get. I mean, the restrictor plate races, for example. I mean that was put in place so that it would prevent them from going over a specific speed, limit them to that. And now what you have on 2 of the super speedways, was it Talladega and Daytona, I think, are both restrictor plate races. And here's what you have, and it can become a problem, and it is a problem. And anybody out there, you hear Darrell Waltrip talking about it every race. Here we got this here old restrictor plate race again. They're up each other's butts, and it's true, man. These guys they're running 200 miles an hour, and they're running 3 wide, 4 wide. You get one car make the wrong move, it wipes out 3/4 of the field. Then it doesn't even become a race. It just becomes kind of, a lackadaisical try to finish the race thing going on.
Well, and you have personalities involved in that. And again, as somebody that's done track days with other riders, and some of them are pros, they go out there and they're practicing.
Yeah,
you're dealing with personalities. You've got to learn the personalities of the people that you're racing with, because there are guys that are super aggressive and they will take risks that will jeopardize not only them but the people immediately around them, and they will do sometimes dumb things to try to get that little bit of an edge.
Sure. And Dale Earnhardt was probably the finest example of someone everybody knew his personality. I mean, he was a very aggressive driver.
And you almost have to anticipate what that guy's going to do.
Well, that's why they called him the Intimidator.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a nickname. These guys all, they all have nicknames. That's why I was talking about, Darrell Waltrip. Darrell Waltrip was one of those guys, he had the nickname of Crybaby. I mean, that was what it was. But you had Ernie Irvan. Remember Ernie Irvan?
Yep.
He was called Swervin' Irvan. because he was all over the track, and you had, who else was it? You had, the Rainbow Warrior. That's
Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon, because he drove the DuPont car. So, I mean, and those figures actually become larger than life to some degree, and they become the ambassadors to the sport, and they have. And of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr., they just referred to him as Little E. But what a great guy, though. I will say this. Let me go on the record here, okay? I'm going to give you my favorite driver of all time and my favorite racetrack. And I don't care what my favorite driver is driving. I don't care if it's a Ford, a Pontiac. That doesn't bother me. But I like my driver. And I was a Dale Earnhardt fan, but more of a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan. And my two favorite tracks are Daytona. I love the Daytona 500. And then, of course, what is it? The Firecracker 400. It's in July. I think 4th of July week or weekend. But my favorite race of all time to this day, and will remain that until they shut it down, and I hope they never do, and that's Talladega. I love tracks like that. They get fast, and it's very exciting. But unfortunately, when you have a restrictor plate race like that, it can become a problem. But it makes it exciting to watch on TV. That's for sure. I can't imagine how tight their rear ends must be, man, when they're running around that track 3 and 4 wide. But you hear them boogity, 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 boogity.
Yeah. It's so. In many ways, sort of, so as NASCAR goes, so does some of the consumer automotive industry. Not talking about commercial trucks and all that, but, car sales, right? So,
yeah,
if they don't figure this out, I think there'll always be some version of them around, but...
Yeah. Well, they're right now in the background. They're trying to figure out why they've lost the ratings and what to do, and they're doing it. You see the examples of it. They're bringing the Ford Mustang on the track, and right now this year I think was the most not rookie drivers, but young drivers that they had, on the circuit with them, in the lineup. So we're all trying to relearn new favorites, because all of the guys that we knew, like the Darrell Waltrips, the Michael Waltrips, the Rusty Wallaces, the Jeff Burton, Ward Burton, all of those guys, they're no longer there, but they are commentating, and they're still. NASCAR's done a really good job of keeping those guys around.
You mean like Bob Cutlass?
Bob Cutlass, yeah.
Well, I'm waiting for you to mention Lightning McQueen, man.
Lightning McQueen, man, yeah. Or what about Junior Jackson or Cole Trickle, for that matter, or Rowdy Burns. Rowdy Burns, wasn't that his enemy, his arch enemy?
I should know this, but who? The last one, I guess it was Cars 3. Where the guys, come on, man, it's a Corvette. So
I didn't see Cars 3.
So I don't know. So I can't.
Well, look,
I don't want to do spoilers here.
I don't have a young kid in my house anymore, so I don't.
But well, I mean, come on, man, you got Sheryl Crow doing the Real Gone. Yeah. Back to her again, right?
Yeah.
And she actually
Steve
did
McQueen.
A song. Yeah, she did the Steve McQueen song.
McQueen.
So in the Cars 3, there's a very fast, very brooding, dark new kid on the block, so to speak, that is kind of untouchable, and it is so clearly a Corvette when you look at the car. That's
right.
He's just
yeah. Well, again, that's pop culture.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it is. It's like King of the Hill, right? Who didn't love King of the Hill, man? I mean, one of my favorite ones. And the character Boomhauer. I mean, I don't know this for certain, but he has to be based on a NASCAR fan.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think. I mean, man, I'm talking about that dang old man gonna get her, going around, vroom, vroom, man. You know what I'm saying? That has got to be. I mean, sorry, I know people. I'm from the South, and I'm not poor-mouthing Southerners. I will say this, though. I had someone say to me one time, they're from the North. They were Yankees, is what they called themselves. He called me a Southerner. And I said, well, why are you calling me a Southerner, man? I'm not. He goes, where are you from? I'm from the South. He goes, exactly. You're not from the South. You're a Southerner. That was his take on it. We argued about that over beers all the time. And this guy also, great friend of mine, we used to have tailgating parties on race day at his place. We would cook food. I mean, we would have, on the grill. We're drinking mimosas. We've got the computers on, man. We're tracking our drivers and all this stuff. And long story short, we were really, really into it for a short period of time, for a few years, but just kind of got lost because they changed, some of the rules. I didn't like the way they were, trying to set it up to win the cup, and I didn't get the playoff. And,
trying to find their way, and they're experimenting a little bit, and they always have done that, but
yeah, the point system thing, I never could understand it. It's just like, you got people winning the cup that didn't, may have won 2 races, but just finished in the top 5. And I get it. It's if you run just enough to be in the top 5, you could win a cup, man. I mean, you don't have to necessarily win the race, and I think you should be a race winner, man. You should be a champion.
Well, the point system, that goes on in literally almost every kind of race circuit out there.
But I just, there's certain things that they could tweak to make it work a little bit better, in my opinion, to make it, I don't know. It just seemed like to me you kind of got tired of the same old stuff year in, year out, with the, what was the guy? What's the guy? I mean, I'm not even a fan. See, what's his name that won like the last 5 or 6 cups? It was like post Jeff Gordon, What's his name? Drove for Lowe's.
Oh, right. You would ask me that right after I closed the article on my screen here.
Do I have it written down,
was it
man?
Mark Martin?
No, it wasn't Mark Martin, man.
He's kind of like the most famous non-winner of all of them that always sort of had a good point.
But he wins these championships, man, so anyway.
Rick Hendrick?
No, he's part of the Rick Hendrick Motorsport team, though.
Jimmy Johnson.
That's him, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew if I just sat here and thought blue for a minute.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, I knew who he was, but couldn't remember his name right off the bat. But see, there you go. I mean, that's how I could recite every driver on the on the track.
Let me just make sure I understand this. So you basically saying like you kind of have a problem with the fact that people that aren't winning the races are still able to win championships.
Correct.
So basically, if you ain't first, you're last.
Correct, man. I was here before you. That's right.
All right.
And that is a Dale Earnhardt line right there, by the way. If you ain't first, you're last. That's it. Bottom line. Who wants to finish second, man? But in this series, you finish second, you can win championships. So I get the did not finish stuff, the DNFs. I get that.
Yeah.
That's understandable. But we're talking about technology and everything that goes into these cars and how the slightest of things can change the downforce and how quickly, they move along the track and everything. And, I've had people ask me, well, when they get in these big wrecks and, the whole front end is all crunched up. And it's like, I've had people say, why don't they, they got the duct tape out, man, and they're taping these things back together. It's obviously like space grade tape. It might be duct tape. I don't know. It's some good tape, but they're putting this stuff on and making all this aerodynamic stuff go back in place. I've had people say, why don't you just rip that off? Well, no, you don't want to rip all the parts off, man. I know it makes sense to me and you when we're running down the highway. We don't want stuff flying off, but with these guys, every advantage of an aerodynamic, it changes anything that's put on that car significantly changes the dynamics.
Right,
removing of that vehicle. Yes,
removing because those body panels are air flow
That's right.
They're designed for airflow. You remove those panels, you add resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Now the car's having to push harder to do the same job.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's interesting to see how technologically advanced that they are these days. I'm loving it. I think it's great. That's the side of it that I continue to kind of follow is the differences that have been made due to specific circumstances. And one of them, for example, and in a good way, and it's unfortunate we lost such a great driver, Dale Earnhardt, when we lost him in that 500 that year. If he'd have been wearing that Hans device,
which he I think refused to. He didn't want anything to do with it.
Exactly, he refused to wear it. Yeah, that's right. He didn't want. And at that time, I think it was the choice of the driver.
Yeah.
I don't know for certain if it's mandated now. I think it may be.
I think it is.
Because you see all these guys, these helmets. I mean, they've got, they can intake fluids. They're in place. They have the Hans device that keeps their necks and stuff in place when they get these big wrecks. I mean, you look at some of the major incidents that go on some of these tracks, and you're thinking to yourself, how in the world could anybody possibly walk away from that? Well, it's because of all the advancements they've made in safety.
Yeah.
A lot of these advancements, this is what you got to look for. The things that you see in NASCAR will become a part of your vehicle that you'll purchase in the future. Trust me when I say that.
They are almost using NASCAR as a testing or proving grounds for, if it works well over a couple seasons in a NASCAR, taking the abuse that they take. And it's very expensive at that time. Then the price comes down a little bit. 4 or 5 years later, it gets implemented into its production.
The NASCAR circuit becomes sort of the proving ground, and it does in any other racing circuit for a lot of these technologies. And it could be anything from a specific type of tire, or for example, they had that bad wreck. Was it maybe? Alan Kowicki, I believe, maybe was the one that he hit the barrier just right. It was a split in the track, and he hit it, and the car just disintegrated. So now they've gone after that particular incident. They went and equipped all the tracks with these soft barriers.
Right.
They've taken all of if there's any void in the wall, they've fixed that. You have to have that fixed.
Right.
Then they've changed the ruling where you can't advance down on the apron. You'll get black flag for it or red flag for it. You got to go in the pits and take a lap, or you have to go a lap down, or speeding on the through the pits. And so they've made a lot of adjustments over the years to not so much take the competitiveness out of it, but to bring a certain level of safety into this thing to keep these guys alive.
So
and
here's something that I've never understood. Now, you were just talking a minute ago about aerodynamics, and now you got into a little bit of the safety stuff. I've never understood why they don't have the windows are open, like the driver window
on the sides.
Yeah, the side doors. And I understand, they got the netting up so they don't fly out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I understand there might be a safety aspect to not having that glass there or something.
Right.
Plexiglass, whatever. But that's got to add a tremendous amount of wind drag, does it not?
It may, but I'm sure that there is an aerodynamic piece on that car that, and if you look closely at them, you'll see that where it does deflect around the car. They put these things through tunnels, man.
Well, yeah.
And test them, and that's never been a factor in the modern car. It hasn't been a factor in the modern car, and I would have to believe that it could actually be a little bit of a hindrance to some degree, and could create some some sort of force. I mean, for example, when they're passing, you see these guys, they use that air off the side of their competitor's vehicle to just force them and propel them forward. In a lot of cases, they get that draft and they take it. It's kind of interesting to watch how they use air more now in this sport than they ever had before. I mean, you could see the increase of how they use it and how closely they drive, and there's a couple of things they get from that. It's speed. They're saving fuel when they do that. When they're really really tied up on them.
Well, and you're making the guy in front of you work a little bit harder.
Oh, absolutely, because you can loosen them up in the back end, and you see that happening. You don't even see them touch, and all of a sudden the back end will just kind of lift up, and next thing you know, they're in the air, they're flipping around. And back to some of the aerodynamic side of it. Before they, how when you'll see a car spinning on the track, you'll see that flap.
Yeah.
Open up on the roof.
I remember when they implemented that.
Yeah. I mean, that was to prevent those big, huge end over end and rolling. They still do it. But, these things were getting airborne, man. And that was not only driver protection, but they had some deaths, spectator deaths, where these things were getting up into the, up into those fencings. And so, not only is it a dangerous sport for the driver, it is actually a dangerous spectator. It's probably, I'm going to say probably outside of the running of the bulls, is probably one of the most dangerous spectator sports out there. So,
yeah, that's an interesting. Well, you've heard it here first, right? Like nowhere else is going to make that comparison.
It's a pretty dangerous sport, man.
All right, so we should probably do a little self-promotion here.
Sure.
Since we don't have NASCAR sponsorship. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have a website, guys, and it's Keith. I know you love it when I go, because I'm so well versed in this. You can reach us on
ifitmakesyouhappy.com. Oh no, wait.
Yeah. www.partscounterguru.com. That's our website, folks, and from there, man, you can navigate to anything that we offer you. And we have a nice spot up on the top left-hand side of the screen. There's a drop-down menu where you can find all of our podcast links. You go there and you can get to our YouTube channel, which when you get to our YouTube channel, this is one that we really want you to take note of, because we need your support. And the best thing you can do is subscribe to our channel. And it's free. It doesn't cost you a dime. But we get recognized for subscriptions. We're trying to meet a goal, which is 1,000 subscribers. If we get that helps us continue to do what we're doing, helps us improve our technology of getting this out there to you. It helps us with content. So if you like what you see now, if you help us out, and you can help us out in many ways, not just subscribing. If you help us out, we can improve on what we're doing and help you improve on the experience that you get from us. You can become a sponsor. We have a sponsor tab up there. We would love to have you sponsor us. We would love to wear your hat on the air. You can go in and contact us. There's a contact us location. You can send us a hat. I'll wear the hat. You can email me. You can email Keith. We also have... It's
Ask Us a Question, I think, on the...
That's right. It's Ask Us a Question. We also have a Facebook page.
I'm hesitant to say anything at all. This is... you're just laying it out there.
Am I killing it, man? Yeah, good.
But, you're 3-4 seconds ahead of the competition at this point.
Yeah. But you can go to Facebook, which is Parts Counter Guru. You can also... it was at Facebook / Parts Counter Guru, whatever. But there's a link on our website there.
I'll just put it right there.
Yeah, it'll be up there. Yeah. But it could be over here, though, or down there. Anyway, you choose, Keith. We'll see.
All the options.
Yeah. You can follow us on Instagram. It's at Parts Counter, the Parts Counter Gurus. Get us there. Gosh, what else is there?
I would say then that's most of them, or if not all of them. If you're already subscribed, tell a friend so that we can get more subscribers. If you're listening to this, we have a video podcast. It's on YouTube, and if you're watching this, you know that you can, after you subscribe on YouTube, you're not allowed to do this until after you subscribe. You can go sign up for the audio podcast, and that's just like Jay said, go to the podcast links on our website at partscountergurus.com, and then you can find your favorite operating system and phone OS and podcast platform and click on it, and you'll be subscribed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy. Man, look, I've got family that's watching it, and we've said this before. My dad's our biggest fan. He watches it, so he watches it on his phone. So there you go. It's that easy. Not saying that my dad can't figure out how to use a phone, guys, but I'm just saying that it's that easy and not complicated.
Yeah, the links are all there. You just click and
it's all there.
Shake and bake.
Yeah. So anyway, man, I have one other thing about NASCAR, man, that I wanted to run. There's a couple of things, man. Some of the names, and I want to give these guys. These are like some of the forefathers of NASCAR, if you will, or some of the most popular drivers, and I want to mention them, man. I mean, Wendell Scott. Do you know who Wendell Scott is?
I was waiting for Tom Cruise. Sorry.
He was one of the first African American drivers that did really well.
I saw some documentary that featured him.
Yeah, there was a movie out about Wendell Scott.
Okay, that might have been it.
It's called Grease Lightning. And you know who played Wendell Scott?
No.
Richard Pryor.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Now, I don't think I've seen that. I got to go find it now.
1977. That's right. There was Stroker Ace, who was portrayed by...
If his mother actually named him that...
No. Burt Reynolds.
Okay. Oh!
That was the name of it.
Yeah.
One of the first NASCAR movies out there, and it came out in 1973. So, and we're giving you all these guys. I don't know if we mention this on the podcast. Maybe there's a link that we could provide to where they can go maybe find some of these movies.
On that, here's what we'll do. On that same partscountergurus.com, we have there are tabs along the top. One of them is mentioned on the podcast, and we will put any and all movies, whether it's iTunes, Amazon, whatever, that you can get there. That helps us if you buy them through
our website.
That's right. Doesn't change the price at all, but Amazon gives us a nod. And actually, if you're going to buy anything on Amazon, click on our website first, and we'll get credit for it. So that's kind of nice to know. Okay, so
so where I was going with that is, in 1973, Jeff Bridges, right? And the name of the movie was called The Last American Hero.
Ah, right.
And he was a driver named Junior Jackson.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yep.
I just kind of wanted to bring some of those things out. And I bring that up because the impact that NASCAR's had on pop culture is it's unbelievable. I mean, it's part of our everyday life. You mentioned NASCAR. I mean, look, you would be hard pressed to find anybody that doesn't know who Dale Earnhardt Jr. is, or Dale Earnhardt, or Darrell Walter, for that matter, or a Jeff Gordon. I mean, these are names. Rusty Wallace, right? I mean, it's just...
I know all of those. DW owns car dealerships. Dale Jr. owns Wrangler. And, are you telling me these guys were race car drivers?
Exactly. That's what I think. Dale Jr. even owns Mountain Dew.
I think,
know.
Yeah.
I mean, but whatever. It's that's how. I mean, when you think of those products, I know I do. I can't walk past a Mountain Dew can without thinking of Dale Jr. Honestly, I just can't. I can't go to a DuPont paint store without thinking of Jeff Gordon. I mean, that's how impactful. Yeah. And this is why, it's such a big business for companies getting out and advertising. I mean, who would have thought that you would have Dolly Parton? She is going to be she will be on a race car in an upcoming race. Dolly Parton.
She's a smart entrepreneur, and I am not surprised.
She knows why she's here. She knows what her purpose is. She'll tell you that. And she's worked very hard for what she's done, and she doesn't give anything away. And God bless her for that. Yeah, I love Dolly.
Yeah.
She's great, man.
Likewise, yeah.
We should do a podcast on country music stars.
Okay.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Or just music in general?
Well, I think that would turn into a docu-series. We're probably going to have to pick specific genres, and country would be a good one.
come to think of it, we said this already, and we're running a little long here, but I want to say this: we do have that contact us. Mm-hmm. You can contact us on our website. Go in there and just contact us and say, hey, do a special on, whatever. Just throw some ideas out there at us, and we'll consider it. And again, we're here to give you the best, man. Whatever we can do, So, good deal.
Good deal.
All right. So, you want to take us out?
I'll take us out.
All right.
All right. So until next time, I always forget which direction you are. That's Jay over there. I'm Keith. I'm going to leave you with this. It's stranger to go through a day without any good deeds than it is to help a stranger. Be a good Samaritan. You will sleep better at night for it, I promise. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. So, how the race was, Jay?
Well, man, I got to tell you something, man. It's been a hard race today, man. We were flying around that track. They were getting up my butt. We were running closer together every day, man. I tell you what, man, the old Advanced Auto Parts Chevy was doing real well, and then we had to switch over to our other car, and that was the Victor Rhines Dana Corporation Dodge Plymouth Dart thing there, man. And then we had to go over to the Row motor oil and get her done, and we switched over. We had to change tires and stuff, so we had to put on the old any fiberglass body to get through because we had a little wreck on the backspan turn there and everything right there, and then we finally settled up with the old Nissan. That's how we got it.